Hello and welcome to this new episode of Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast. Following last week's episode, which was 5 steps to overcome the impulse of ringing your narcissistic mother, I received an email from a listener. And she was so kind as to let me read the email in the episode, so here we go. Hi Matilde. I felt the need to reach out to you after the latest episode. I don't think I've ever cried listening to a podcast episode before. The one thing I've been struggling the most is the need to call and talk to my mother. I keep thinking and telling myself that if I keep calling and keep trying, that everyone is capable of change and that eventually my mother will see the error of her ways and change. But I'm becoming more and more aware that that probably won't happen. It would be so much easier if our narcissistic mothers were horrible and abusive on every call, but they lull you into a false sense of security, making you believe that you can trust them until the abuse rears its ugly head yet again. I only just stumbled on your podcast yesterday. Do you have any episodes that cover why your mother doesn't seem to always be abusive? I listened to your podcast episode about 10 ways you know your mother is a narcissist, and mine ticked every single one growing up. But I was wondering if you have any episodes that cover why every single call is an abusive and why they can sometimes come across as caring and loving until the abuse starts again. Thanks for the almost creepy timing of today's episode. I'm already noticing a change in my thinking because of your podcast, like when my mother pointed out that she for once called me this time. I immediately thought back on how you feel like you are the one always reaching out and always making the effort, and now I see through her saying that as some kind of leverage over me, a new set of eyes. Thank you for everything you do. So thank you so much for your question and also for letting me share the email. This is really helpful for everyone listening, and it's really helpful for me also to know how I can support you best. As always, to everyone listening in, I want to remind everyone that to share the email is your choice, and I would never read an email without permission of the sender. So that I'm just saying this. So if you want to reach out and ask me a question, but you feel uncomfortable and you wouldn't want me to read your email, I won't do that, and so you're safe. You can send whatever question. So with that said, after her very good question, I realized I hadn't yet done an episode on this topic. So here we are. So I really, and this has become a way bigger, actually, a way bigger episode than just answering the question. So I want to speak in general, about why they do that. Why they're not abusive all the time. So I want to start by asking you, have you ever thought something like this about your mother? I wish she was just simple abusive so I could be done with it. Or something like, these ups and downs are confusing. It would be easier if she was mean all the time. Or if only she was mean in front of others as well, at least they would say I'm not crazy. So, and although it may seem ridiculous to wish that your mother was just plain bad all the time, I totally get it. It's actually not ridiculous at all. If someone is outright abusive, it justifies you taking a stance, okay? Maybe even going all the way to no contact if needed. And it also becomes more clear to others around you, making you feel less alone and less crazy. So it's very, very normal to to feel, or very natural to feel that it would be easier if the abuse was consistent and always the same and always bad, instead of this like weird, confusing ups and downs of like being nice one day and then being terrible the next, and something like that. This is something I felt for so long in my relationship with my own mother. Not as a child, really, because, as a child we worked differently. I just wanted her to be around me all the time. So it didn't matter if she was being good, if she was being bad. It was just my mother, and she was my hero. But later, growing up, when I started realizing how damaging her behavior was, but this behavior was not consistent and it was confusing. She could be so horrible and then so nice. One moment she would completely put me down, and then the next she would build me up to be her favorite person in the world, and then attack again. And this was very confusing. It created conflicting emotions within me and a lot of guilt too. It made me feel like I was the crazy one, seeing things, that maybe weren't true, and also like there was some hope. If only the good side could be there more. And that it was my fault that she had to be bad and all of that. So you can see how that can just create a lot of confusion. And as the email of the sender says, you keep ringing your mother in the hope that maybe the next phone call will be nice, because sometimes those phone calls are nice, and so there's like this hope that builds, and then the abuse comes back and just puts you down again. I remember being in my mother's house when uh, that like this incident was interesting. So I was upstairs in my mother's house, and myself and my boyfriend at the time, literally in a funny movement, we banged our heads together by accident, and it resulted in me having a very swollen black eye. It was like a real freak accident. And my mother, when she saw me coming down the stairs, because I needed ice obviously, went on for days saying that my boyfriend had hit me on purpose, because that was evidence. And the poor guy didn't know how to explain, and felt horrible, as he was like, he wouldn't hurt a fly. So and it had been a freak accident. But I remember at the time, like, it made me wish my mother had done it, so I could show others how abusive she was. Like this evidence, someone that was like a really kind and gentle human, by a freak accident, there was like an evidence that he had been abusive to me where he hadn't, and that my mother, which was abusive to me but never left any trace of evidence, never did it in front of others. um I never could prove it to anyone of how abusive she was. So there was this wish of, like, if she had done it, if I could say that my mother had done that, then others would actually believe me, because it would be obvious. In the same week, actually, that thing happened, we had episodes where she has threatened to hit me a few times, but always with no witnesses. And then when we were in public, she was so nice again. So I'm sharing this with you because it might help you in your experience in seeing similar patterns within your relationship with your mother. Why does a narcissistic mother act like this? The short answer is manipulation. And I could leave it at that. This would be the end of the episode. But this is where I'm saying this episode became something bigger. So I want to explore this a little more in depth today. Okay? So the answer is in the point I made at the start. The wish she was just plain mean, so it would be easier to make a stance, and so others would see it too, and you'd feel less alone and crazy. Okay? A narcissistic mother doesn't want you to have clarity on what her game is. She doesn't want to be exposed to others seeing her true face, or else her game is done. A narcissist wants to look good in the eyes of others. That's something that is really important to them. So we'll do anything to keep things hidden behind closed doors, to maintain the story of how good she is. So she's never going to do that in front of others. And also, these ups and downs play you in a way that kind of keep you in the loop. In case of a grandiose narcissist, she will be careful to keep her grandiose behavior within closed doors and hiding the jabs at you in public in ways that always make her seem the good person. She can use sentences phrased in a way that always make it come out like she's the good person and you're the bad person, but that she's not outright directly insulting you in the eyes of others. In case of a more vulnerable narcissist, she will use her martyr victim story to always be the one that gets the attention and that no one can say anything bad about. She has, the poor woman, she has a reason to be like that. I mean, look at her life, look how much she's suffering. People will sympathize with her story, and so that will make you look bad in front of others, maybe, or definitely will make you look bad if you start going around saying your mother is a bad person, because everyone is buying into her story. So manipulation is at the base of her game, to keep you stuck in the loop, to keep you within her control so that her needs are met. That's like the ABC of a narcissist and a narcissistic mother. There are 5 strings a narcissistic mother will use to manipulate you, like literally, like the strings of a little puppet. Those are the strings she pulls and plays with to keep you in her control and to manipulate you. And these are hope, fear, guilt, pity, and comfort. So how does she use this? As I mentioned, manipulation is at the core of everything a narcissistic mother does. Even when she seems nice, it is not because she's truly attuned with your needs. In the nice phone calls, in the nice moments when she's actually saying something nice to you and you're like nearly surprised or taken aback, or you think finally she's changing. That's not because she's felt into you or she's empathized with you or she's attuned with you, because she can't do that. That's not available to a narcissist. So that's just because somehow suits that moment, behaving that way suits her needs. There is a reason behind how she's behaving, and it's always going back to her own needs. Does that mean we can't appreciate the good moments? Oh, we can totally appreciate them, but with awareness of where it truly comes from and knowing that it's not going to last. I don't know, have you noticed, or is this your experience? Like, in my experience, if I'm receiving a present from my mother, obviously not in the last 2.5 years of being no contact, but before, it was some gifts were nice, and the vast majority of the gifts were like obviously for her own needs. But sometimes, coincidentally, the gifts were nice. They were meeting her needs, but they were also nice for me. So I can appreciate the gift and go, oh, that's nice. But I know that that's where it comes from. Like, it comes from her meeting her own needs and not actually her having attuned with me at all whatsoever. So you can appreciate the good moments with the awareness and without feeding false hopes that that's going to last. And also knowing that just because your mother acts like that, it doesn't mean everyone else around you will do that too. So that's another topic, like that. Sometimes people are genuinely nice. They're not all narcissists out there. So I know for myself, I have been guarded for such a long time. Oh, that person is being nice to me. What's their agenda? I mean, why are they being nice? What's hidden behind that niceness? And that's just a pattern that comes from trying to protect myself and guard myself from my mother. But there are actually nice people out there. So just as a reminder. So back to how she can use the 5 strings to manipulate you. Let's talk about hope first. So hope, she will use whatever means to stir in you a false sense of hope. She might withhold her affection for a time, for example, but then just before you get fed up with it, she may do something nice for you. So you keep hoping things will change. Or she may tell you things to have you live in the hope of getting an acknowledgement or validation. And that our inner child always seeks that. Like, I would be so proud of you if only you could have good results in your exam. Or it would make me so happy if you got that job. And so you have that hope that actually, you don't like that job, but if you pursue it, you finally will get validation from your mother. Or if you finally get a good a good result in an exam in school or whatever, you are going to get that appreciation from your mother, only for you to get there and to find that the bar has been raised again. So that's not enough. So you got the good results, but now it doesn't matter, and she just wants something else, and this keeps on going. Fear. She may steer fear in you in many different ways. Maybe by convincing you are not good enough and capable to do certain things on your own, so she can place herself as the only one who can truly support you. She may this way offer you a false sense of security, so that when you are afraid or uncertain or you're going through challenging times, you will keep returning to her, keeping her story of how good she is, and you keep that story going, while you are unaware that in fact she has been the one fueling your fears in the first place. I've lived that in very, very first person. Like when in my learning, maybe some of you listening to the podcast have heard me sharing this before. My mom has been my instructor in horse riding since I was a very small child, and all the way into my adult life. And she had me so convinced that I was so scared and so afraid of horses, and that she was the only one that could support me into learning and riding with, like sort of protecting me from that fear, make me overcome it, while she was the one feeding it. It was only when I took my distance and I actually started pursuing that by myself with different people supporting me that I realized, wow, like I always thought she was the only one that could teach me, and that I was so scared of everyone, of horses and of everyone else. But it was her. She was actually fueling that to keep me in that loop of being dependent, being enmeshed, and just always wanting to go back to her. So that was just to give you an example. Her passive-aggressive tones and put-downs and her behaviors may also have you living in fear of the repercussion of your choices. What backlash there could be if you actually set a boundary. Maybe fear of losing that bit of love she somehow shows you in the good moments, or fear of being isolated by the rest of your family. Okay, so that's how she uses fear to keep you there. Guilt. Another way she can play your strings is by guilt tripping. When she feels the most vulnerable, maybe she got too far and you're truly breaking free, she could use guilt tripping to get you back in the loop. If her life is not going so well, she can use that at her advantage. Oh, how could you, she could say things like, how could you go on holidays when I'm here all on my own? Or something like, I'm so happy you love your job, but here things are difficult without you. Would you ever consider coming back? And just, looping you back in, bringing you back in. Pity. She can use pity, we said. That's one of the strings. She may go all the way as to sabotage herself and her life in order to steer pity and get the attention she wants. Something I'm seeing this firsthand in my own family right now. Comfort. She could be the one treating you really bad or disregarding your boundaries all the time and causing you all sorts of suffering. But she also could be the one offering you, for example, to babysit your kids, or to come over when you're sick and support you, or to give you, maybe she's your boss, so she's giving you the job that's paying your bills. We have an episode on this. If that's your case, you can check out episode 40 in breaking free from the pain of working for your narcissistic mother. Or maybe she could be the one paying for the holidays, like gifting you some beautiful, luxurious holidays that you would not be able to afford by yourself, of course, with the condition that she's coming along with you, but always to offer you comfort. And again, not because she's selfless and loving, but because it suits her and she can keep you in her control. And it's really important here to to sort of feel into, okay, I'm getting this, but this is a nice thing I'm getting from my mother. If she's paying for a holiday, if she's coming to babysit for the kids, or if she's minding my pets when I'm on holidays, or whatever, like something that offers you comfort. But at what cost is that coming? At what cost? We said that there are nice people out there. There are actually really lovely, nice people that will do something nice for you just because they are very nice and loving people. But this is not the case. So if she's doing something that is nice, is offering you comfort, what's the cost? I know for myself, the cost was always very, very high. Um, so these are the 5 strings that she can use to manipulate you. And I want to speak also to some other ways she can manipulate you into feeling like it's all your fault and she's actually just doing what mothers do. And whatever she has to do that doesn't look so good is because you are such a bad child. Okay, that's one main manipulation technique that she can use, and all of these manipulation ways actually do play on the strings that we've just talked about. But they're important because they're patterns that happen very often. So I just wanted to speak about them separately. So one is gaslighting. And you probably heard this term before. So it's making you feel like the crazy one for feeling what you're feeling or for seeing what you're seeing. It's sort of a way with words to turn the reality and make you see reality different from what it really is, so that by the end of the conversation you are actually thinking, okay, I'm seeing things, I'm the crazy one, I'm the only one that is feeling this way, there's something wrong with me. Okay. She could say things like, I'm listening to you, darling, and you know I love you, but what you're saying makes no sense, and it's my job as your mother to tell you that. Okay, this sounds really nice, but it's not, because maybe what you're expressing are your feelings, things that you're seeing, and those are really valid. But by doing that, she's just telling you that what you're saying makes no sense, making you questioning yourself and the validity of what you're feeling and saying. Okay? Or she could say something, it hurts me, but it is my responsibility as your mother to tell you that you need help. These thoughts are crazy. You are the only one seeing it that way. That's another thing. So, like putting herself as the hero because it hurts her to tell you that you're crazy, effectively, but because she loves you, she's gonna tell you that you're crazy for seeing, feeling whatever you're feeling. Okay, so that's gaslighting. I was convinced it was all in my head for such a long time. My mother is a master gaslighter. And she had me fully convinced that I was too sensitive, that I was seeing things, that everything I was feeling was just wrong. If I was feeling something was bad, she would tell me that thing was actually good. If I was feeling something was good, she would tell me it was bad. So like there was no way. My intuition was completely not valid at all. Never, ever, ever. Okay, so it's only when I started speaking to what my mother did and was capable of doing within a safe and appropriate container that I could fully see her for what she was and is. So it was quite the process. Another way that your mother can manipulate you that can seem really nice, it's love bombing. Okay, that this is something narcissists in general do, but like we're talking here specific to narcissistic mothers. So telling you how great you are and how much she loves you, again building your hopes up, and then attacking again when your guard is down. Okay. The love bombing phase can last however long she feels is necessary to get you back in the loop. And you can see that, for example, if you set a boundary that is particularly strong, if you decide to maybe move away, or like things like that, she realizes she's pushed you away a little bit too far, and this time you're beginning to realize her game. One of the ways she can react is try and love bomb you and telling you how much she loves you and how much you mean to her and all of that and how great you are and whatever, and build you up to the point that your guard is down and you go, oh, maybe, you know what, maybe I overreacted. Maybe she wasn't that bad after all. You see, come on, she's been so nice, and you go back and then she gets abusive again. Third way she it's a go-to of high-end manipulation is victimhood. Okay, as we mentioned when talking about guilt and pity. With the victimhood and the martyr story, she can stir guilt and pity. So this is another way she can make you feel like you're the bad one, for having thoughts about her not being nice. After all, she's just an unfortunate person who is suffering. She's been unlucky. She's suffered so much in life. Life been so bad. Maybe you should just forgive her. And if you don't just forgive her, you're a bad person. And here you are feeling guilty and forgetting all that you've been through. So that's one way. And the last way that I want to speak to is flying monkeys. So this is when she uses others. Okay, she gets others to join in on her cause. These people are enablers. They let her behave the way she's behaving. They've never stopped her behavior towards you. And also there might be people who only decide or who only are shown by her good side. So they might decide turn a blind eye and just choose to only see her good side. Or that could also be because she, with these people, it's always showing only her good side, being very careful not to ever show her true face. So, and these people become devoted to let you know that you are the only one in the wrong here. They'll come at you from all angles, sent by your narcissistic mother, to let you know that you're the one in the wrong, that you're the one acting up, that you should do this and should do that. You should take your responsibility as a good daughter, and you should and even if things, at sometimes were bad, you should forgive, and you just should forget, and you should. I remember being told many times I should be the mature one. Between myself and my mother, I should be the mature one and just go back and apologize or whatever. So they'll make it their mission to message you, to ring you, to come visit you, but to let you know that you are the one in the wrong. Maybe again, they can use gaslighting too. They can use the guilty tripping. They can use all of the above. Okay. And with them, she behaves in ways that confirm what she's telling them. So as I said, with them, she will show her good side. So they will see that, and then they'll come to you telling you that you're the bad person if you don't go back, maybe, and you decide to go in contact again. Maybe you're no contact, and that's what you're getting. Or maybe you've just set a boundary. You decided, no, this time I'm going on holidays by myself with my family. Or this time for Christmas, I'm not going to be at home because I just want to do things with my own family, or stuff like that. And you're going to get all of these people pushing for you to just go back on your decision. Again, as an attempt to get you back into the loop. So all of the above manipulative behaviors can belong to both grandiose and vulnerable narcissists. A narcissistic mother can be both too, depending on what is going on in her life or what the situation requires. I touched on this specific aspect in the episode 15 Signs Your Mother is a Covert Narcissist. And I've got feedback from many listeners relating with this. So I'm going to speak to it again a little bit. A narcissistic mother can display more grandiose behavior, meaning she can be more obviously abusive when she feels she's in a position of power and absolute control. Okay? When she has the upper hand, she goes all in. The same person, so your mother, can also fall into a more vulnerable pattern of victimhood when her power and control feels threatened. Okay? For example, if she feels you're close to break free, or if she's going through something tough in her own life, which could very well be the result of her self-sabotage, but she's going to use that and stir that victim story. Okay, my mother, for example, felt at her strongest when she was in a strong, intimate relationship with someone. So she would be grandiose in those times. Like she would treat me really, really bad when her love life was going really well, because she felt in a position of power. After each breakup, she would go down the road of a more vulnerable pattern, becoming more covert in her ways and more needy. And then maybe the love bombing also would come. Like, you're the only one that can understand me. You're the only one that can help me. You're the only one, you're my favorite person in the world. Bring me back into the loop. Guilt tripping me if I didn't help her. But she wouldn't behave that way when she was in a position of power. So you can see how the same person, this goes back to that email again, like they sometimes they use that. They go from one way, strongly abusive, in your face, and then into victimhood, because that's what suits her own life. That's what suits their own life in the moment. So we spoke about all these aspects of maternal narcissistic manipulation, and we've covered partially, because like this is a big topic. There's so many combinations and so much more to it, but like just we gave an overview of the main ways a narcissistic mother can manipulate you. Now let's see how all of these factors can be combined together in her manipulation, so that she can keep meeting her own needs and keep her position of power over you, which is her ultimate goal all the time. So let's say she has done something completely out of line. You got fed up and you set a real strong boundary with her. You may notice that she will either be at her best behavior for a while, surprising you. You'd be like, wow, I've never seen my mother behaving this well. What's happened? Maybe my boundary really worked. You can get like this false hope that, oh, it's really working. She could resort to go all the way and love bombing you, or to offering comfort in some way, like a peace offering. All of this to feed false hope and to get you to feel bad. Maybe very guilty, actually, about the boundary you just set, and let your guard down again. Once she got there, her behavior will shift again, and the more obvious abuse will come back. Okay, that's one way she can go about it. So you see, she's putting the love bombing, she's putting the offering of comfort, and she's fed the false hope, and maybe a little bit of guilt tripping along the way. Or she may fall into victimhood. Maybe all of a sudden a physical condition will flare up. Pay attention to that, or something bad all of a sudden will happen. Again, like some sort of self-sabotaging, because usually that's where that comes from. All making sure you feel pity and guilt and go back to her. So you've set this boundary, you've been really strong. All of a sudden her life goes to crap. She has a reason to become a victim, and she's dragging you back into the loop. Or she could use gaslighting, convincing you with the language she knows works on you. Remember, why is it working on you? Because she's trained you your whole life. She knows what language to use with you. The language your mother uses with you would not work on me. The language my mother uses with me wouldn't work on you. But she knows exactly what language to use, what buttons to push to swing things around and make you feel like you're seeing things or you're feeling too much. And so by the end, you're leaving feeling that she's leaving you feeling that you are the one in the wrong, and you might just go back on your decision and just, maybe go back on the boundary that you set, as that is the example we're using. Or she could steer fear by sending flying monkeys. So here we combine the fear and the flying monkeys, threatening you, threatening your place within the family unless you reconsider your position. Okay, you could have a team of aunts and uncles, or brothers and sisters, or this could be your dad. Anyone that comes in and actually starts telling you, well, you know what you just did, you know how you told her no to that thing, well, now that was really bad behavior because your mother blah 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 blah, and so you now feel threatened that your position in your family is at risk, that you risk losing other members of your family unless you reconsider your position, all in a way that lets you put your guard down because you start feeling bad about what you did. or that plays on the triggers that she knows are there. So why is all of this manipulation working so well on you? We touched on it. And again, I want to slow down for a moment and say that you're not alone in that. It works well on all of us. We're all daughters of narcissistic mothers here, and it does. Like, each mother knows, as we said, which buttons to push, which are the triggers, what language to use. Um, and that is because a narcissistic mother trains her child from a very young age to respond to all these triggers. And she knows exactly what buttons to push and when. And how this works for you will be very personal, as we said, to your own experience with your mother. Triggers that have worked for my mother with me might not mean much to another person, and vice versa. Okay, it's very personal. A question I get often is, does my mother know she's doing all of this? Could I tell her? Could I make her aware of what she's doing? That might make her stop. So to answer this question, most of all this is fueled by the narcissistic subconscious. Most of what she does comes from her subconscious. It's the result of her own trauma responses from her childhood, patterns, beliefs she's picked up along the way, and so on. So it's all going on in the background. What does that mean? That means she's not fully aware of it. And the narcissistic patterns are such that she will never admit to any of this. She will never take responsibility for her actions. She doesn't even see that her actions are wrong. She feels completely justified because she truly believes her needs are that important. So, in the lights of that, talking to a narcissistic mother about her behaviors in the hope that she will realize what she has been doing and that is wrong and change is not going to work. And I'm not here to crush your hopes, but that is just the way it is with a narcissist. It will only cause you a lot of pain. And in the process of trying to talk to her about these things, you may actually end up giving her more fuel to hurt you further. I'm not here to ever tell you what to do or not to do, because I don't hold the truth to anything, and each situation is different and unique. But the advice, the invitation is not to try and talk about this with your mother unless you see a real deep change in her. I mean, something amazing, like miraculous. And even at that, remember that the journey of healing from maternal narcissism has nothing to do with your mother at all. It's all to do with you. So you're not here in the hope of changing your mother. You're not here in the hope of having the perfect mother-daughter relationship or any of that. That's not about your mother, actually. It's all about you, not in the sense that it's your fault, but in the sense that your healing is yours. It's your life that you're trying to heal, not hers. It didn't start with you. It's not your fault, but it gets to end with you when you get this. So it's not about talking to your mother and make her understand that her behavior is bad, because that's a lost cause. That's not gonna work. It's only gonna cause you a lot of pain. Okay? It's about bringing it back to yourself, feeling into how this affects you and has affected you, and work from within yourself so that you're healing your own life, so that the patterns are stopping in your own life, regardless of what she keeps on doing. That's none of your business. That's her choice. Okay? So if we can't just go and talk to her about this, how can we protect ourselves from this manipulation? How can you protect yourself from all this manipulation? Because as we can see, this is quite a high-end game. She has a lot of tools in her toolkit to use to manipulate you and bring you back and use those strings and play those strings. So how do we protect? There are what I call 3 shields to protect you from her playing your strings. And these shields are awareness, acceptance, and authenticity. And I've never put it like this before, so not in the podcast at least. So I think this is really, really, really important. Okay, so number one, awareness. Become aware of what maternal narcissism is and how this applies to your personal situation with your mother. Okay, learning about maternal narcissism will support you in understanding her behavior and most of all the effects that this has had on you and your life, giving you the first potent step into any healing journey. Okay, the awareness is the first step into any healing journey. Through awareness, you will become more and more aware of the patterns that are not helpful for you anymore. Number two, acceptance. This is a deeper level of understanding that your mother is what she is and that she will not change. It's like accept that. The moment you accept that, it's gonna change things. If your mother is a narcissist or if she has narcissistic tendency, this has nothing to do with you and none of it is your fault. It is her story and it is not your responsibility to save her or to fix her. Okay, so this is important to accept. It's like it's a fact to accept. And at the beginning, you can get it in rationally. But as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, it's going to become an acceptance that comes actually from, like, it's an embodied acceptance. Like, it's a real thing. You're truly, really accepting that that's just how things are. Number three, authenticity. Trauma is a disconnection from self. Okay, we spoke about this before. And maternal narcissism has stifled the natural development of your own identity. That's just how it works. So, by doing your own work to get connected with your true identity and your authentic self, you will reduce the level of control your mother has on you. It just goes hand in hand. Remember, she can only trigger what's already loaded within you. Okay? As you release the gunpowder from your body, she won't be able to use those triggers to control you anymore. So, the more you work towards rebuilding and strengthening that connection with your authentic self, you can see how this just brings the work completely disconnected from what your mother is doing or isn't doing or her behaviors. That doesn't matter. Let her do whatever. Put her on a shelf. And work in bringing back that connection with yourself. So you become aware of what she is and what she's doing. You become aware of maternal narcissism and how that has affected you. First shield, you're aware. You now know. She can't play you for a fool anymore because you now know. You are aware. Number two, you're accepting. Okay, that's a fact. There's no point in just keep banging my head against the wall on something that's not going to change, and none of it is my fault. So, like, again, second shield is like you're putting layers of protection around you when you're going into battle, yeah? And then the next shield is authenticity. So forget about working on your mother. Forget about trying to talk her out of her behaviors or trying to make her understand, and just turn it, or even forget about bitching about her behavior and just go complaining and just she did this and she did that and oh poor me and my story. That's not going to be very helpful. We can talk about what I can talk about, and I have done that. So, like, I'm not saying that with any judgment. I've done so much talking about what my mother did and didn't do and how she did this and how she did that. Never found any solution in that. Never found any healing in that. And I could go on years and years and years talking about all of that, all to be the same person and have the same issues. And for all the same parents to just be active in my life just as before. But when you start working on building that authenticity in yourself, recreating that connection with your true self, that you mightn't know what that looks like at all. I definitely didn't for a very long time, and I'm still working on it because it's not something that you just work on for like a couple of months and then you have it all sorted out. It's like a lifelong journey. But your authentic self is not something static that you just discover and then that's it done. But that constant and consistent work in bringing in that authentic self, finding your authenticity, finding your true voice, finding who you are, and reconnecting with your gut feeling, reconnected with your intuition. That's like the biggest shields of all. Like, she cannot trigger you anymore from that place. The more you build that, the less she controls you, the less she triggers you. That doesn't change her behavior. She's gonna still behave like she has always behaved, but it's just you're gonna accept it a lot less. You're gonna be fine setting your boundaries. You're gonna be very clear about where you stand, and she's not gonna have any ground to actually drag you back into the loop, which is the main thing. It's the real breaking free. So awareness, acceptance, authenticity, the three big shields to keep you protected and safe against maternal narcissistic manipulation. Bottom line is, the journey is not about breaking free from your mother, but about gently getting to know the patterns within you. Learn to love yourself and to become more and more your authentic self. Okay? Only this way the manipulation of your narcissistic mother won't work anymore. It's like the antidote. And the pillar on which all of this rests. Okay, so we got the three shields, and then there's one pillar that holds it, that is like at the base of all of that, and it's support. Okay, getting support will help you along this entire process. You do not have to do this alone, and you're not alone. Okay, it's really important. To do it all alone, it's like a lot. It's a lot. And we have blind spots. We have patterns that are really easy to recognize, and patterns that are in the background, they're really in the subconscious, they're really hidden, and we can't really see them. They're in our they're blind spots, that's what they're called. So those by yourself are really hard to see, and that's where you need support. And you need a safe container where you can share, where you can work things through, where you can start opening up to patterns, to pathways of safety. So again, find a container, find a place where you feel safe to share. A women's circle, one-on-one work, whatever that is that works for you. If you choose that this is the container for you, there are links in the description of the episode to the Reclaim Your Fullness women circles that are running, and to the one-on-one work with me, the 10 weeks program that I have available. So you can always email me and ask me any questions about that too. So with that was a big episode, and yeah, I'm gonna leave you with that, sending you lots of love. Bye for now.